Alright, so I just quickly do a little bit revision on the Upanishad Darshana Bhashya category of books. So Upanishads, they are found some in the Vedas, some in the Brahmana, some in the Samhitas, some in the Brahmana, some in the Aranyaka. They discuss there's only one person who wanted that. Claudia, you have it? Let me give lesson to everybody. Lesson 2 is already discussed. Shruti, Smriti and Nyaya, Vedanga is an Adhimas. That's your homework actually. The questions are there. So try to finish all your homeworks and give them before at least before 11. We'll be having 2 more classes. Maybe one more class actually, not 2 more classes. One more class which is tomorrow evening. We'll be completing by the time, and then you have lessons and you do your homework. And the lessons are not complete by the printed copies are not complete by tomorrow, then during this week you can get it. I'll be away from 11th to 24th to San Diego. So during that time, you take your own time, write all the homework and give it back to me guys. So as soon as I come back, I can do the correction and do a test for this. And we can launch May 1st week. We can launch the next week. Everything happens like that. So, Upanishad means sitting next to the teacher or bringing close to the knowledge. This is Vedanta. Veda means knowledge and Anta means end. And Upanishads are Vedanta philosophy. There are 108 books. They discuss the absolute truth. I mainly first discuss the philosophical aspect of all these things that we study in the Smritis, in the Vedangas. What is the purpose? As I said, Nyaya means why. Up to Upanishads, they are generally classified as Shrutis. But from Upanishad stems Nyaya. Nyaya means the logical argument. So all the ceremonies which are mentioned in the Vedas, in the Brahmana, in the Aranyakas, and the Kalpa Sutras, their why aspect is discussed in the Upanishads. And generally the Upanishads, they describe in negative terms. That means they deny the material conception of everything up to absolute truth, up to God. But that doesn't mean they deny the spiritual conception. They simply deny the material conception. The process is known as na-iti, not just. So the name, form, qualities and activities of absolute truth are not material. That is the subject matter of Upanishad. And also all the ceremonies, all the rituals that one performs, sacrifices that one does, what is the purpose of it? That is discussed in the Upanishad. Why it is done? Ultimately all the sacrifices are meant for self-realization. So Upanishad subject matter is self-realization. And that self and the super self are described with an idea to negate the material conception. But the purpose of the Upanishad is actually to confirm the transcendental, personal, spiritual conception of truth, absolute truth. So the Upanishad language is very high standard and metaphysical. There is some symbolism and everything has to be taken according to direct meaning. And the direct meaning is not very visible, it's very difficult to grasp. The language is very high class, complex. Discussion is also, the method of discussion is high class. It is a wise factor. Kalpa Sutras, they do ceremonies, they say the different instructions in very simple manner. For example, establish a part and worship Sudarsana in that, etc. But when it comes to Upanishad, then it gets deep, sound, high standard language, in other words, simple words, philosophical language. So there are commentaries on the Upanishad, not exactly on the commentary classification, but they are known as darshanas. Darshana means philosophy. Generally the question in the Upanishad is where everything is coming from. What is the source? That's the subject matter. So, different philosophers, of course, to cater or supply to the different motives, different aims and objectives of conditioned source, they supply this darshana. Darshan means to see. So different sources they establish as beginning. So there are these 6 darshanas that we already discussed, and in your lesson you will get detailed points of that. And the final is Sutra Mimamsa, Vedanta Sutra, which is generally known as Nyaya. Even though this is all Nyaya, these 6 systems, but still the real Nyaya is Sutra Mimamsa, by Vyasadeva, Vedanta Sutra. And Sutras, I already mentioned this before, Sutra means short phrase consisting of words which are potent enough to convey a number of meanings. That is known as Sutra. This is the definition of Sutra. So, Vedanta Sutras are written in the form of Sutra, and it requires commentary. So we come to the Bhashya, commentary. There are 2 classifications, monistic commentary and theistic commentary. Monistic commentary is by Shankaracharya, and the theistic commentaries are by the 4 Vaishnava Sampradayas, Nimbaka, Vishwaswami, Ramanuja, Madhva. So these are the 4 Vaishnava Sampradayas. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he instructed these Sampradayas in his unmanifested pastimes, and later he collected 2 principles from each Sampradaya and then instructed his disciples, Goswamis. And on the island of Krishna Chakravarti, Vrindavan Das, there Malde Vidyabhushan wrote our line commentary known as Atinja Jagavir Satya. So these are commentaries. Each one of these sections, like these 6 sections and these 4 commentaries, 5 commentaries, is separate study course. So later in future, if you are still interested, you can study that in detail. Now we are just studying what they are, what they speak about. So the names of philosophies are written there, and in the lesson you will get a little bit description of each. So Vyasadeva, he gave the conclusive meaning of the Upanishad and completed wherever the 6 systems of philosophy have left the information incomplete. That in Vedanta Sutra. And he thought it wise to write a natural commentary on that. He always had that desire. So you find there in the chart here, you may not have it in your sheet there because it's just 1 line, so we didn't make a copy of that. But instead in the Purana section, We have given that under pure goodness, natural commentary. You can take the Purana section of your booklet and look at that. I'm going to explain that now. So, this one here, you see here, natural commentary of Vedanta Sutra. So Vyasa gave a natural commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. The natural commentary means it is not a verse-to-verse commentary, but the subject matter of the Vedanta Sutra is naturally commented in the Srimad Bhagavad Purana. Now we are discussing Purana. You can see in this chart also, there is a line coming from Brahma through Narada, through Vyasa, to the Purana section. So Narada is a son and disciple of Brahma, and his disciple is Vyasadeva. And Vyasadeva, he is the one who compiled, he divided the Vedas into 4, and he also wrote the Vedanta Sutra. Now he wrote another section of books known as Purana. Purana means two general meanings. One is complete, another is history. That is Purana. Purana is known as the 6th Veda. There are 4 Vedas, Rig, Sama, Yajur, Atharva. Purana is known as the 6th Veda. Puranas are no way less important than the Vedas themselves. Of course, Vedas, they go by 3 accents of meter while chanting, they carry some potency. All this is there. But no way Purana is less than the Vedas. The same subject matter is explained in the Purana through history. Not mythology, but history. Not that there are some principles, to convey those principles are made up some stories. Rather, the world works under the law of Krishna, and in the history of the world, those who follow the law, who do not follow the law, they get different results. So when you record the history, you are actually describing the law of Krishna. Just like the law book and the law journal. The law journal describes different cases, court cases, between parties and government on following the law, breach of law, breaking the law, etc. That is law journal. And law is one shall pay income tax. The law journal is Mr. Tom versus government of such and such state regarding tax law, regarding breaking of tax law. What happened to him? Finally, how he ended up paying everything. How he got into jail. So this is law journal. So law journal is very easy for a person to understand law. So Puranas are the law journal. Vedas is the law book. Purana explain all the history of the world from the creation and up to now and some future also. That's Purana. And as already we have seen that the Vedas is source of all knowledge for all kinds of people. So it caters to all kinds of people. So the same way the Puranas are also composed. There are 3 modes of material nature, namely goodness, passion and ignorance. And people, their lifestyle, their entertainment, their food, their aim of life, their destination, everything is divided according to these 3 modes. So the Puranas were written in 3 modes: goodness, passion and ignorance. And in your booklet, you have this sheet of paper which gives the list of the Puranas according to one particular classification. Like I mentioned before, these classifications, people may have different way of classifying. For example, in the Purana, something which is classified here in the mode of passion, somebody may classify in the mode of ignorance or in the mode of goodness. It is also, this ignorance, passion and goodness, they are not separate canons, separated, but one goes into the other. Ignorance leads to passion, passion leads to goodness, etc. So sometimes the books may be classified differently. So don't get deluded if you see a different list anywhere. This we have tried to, as much as possible, take this from the conversations of Srila Prabhupada. So, in Sita was Krishna Master, so we are trying to follow that. And sometimes the classification is different. That makes no big difference to you at this level of the study. You just have to know that there are three different classifications of it. And in these classifications, different controllers are extolled as the supreme. But there is no contradiction, because just like if you take this district, there is a supreme authority for the district. Then there is a supreme authority for the state. Then there is a supreme authority for the nation. In this way there are various levels. When you go vertical, there are various levels. On the horizontal platform, one may see something as supreme at each level. The idea is to introduce the conception of supreme, and then to raise it from level to level. This is the gradual situation. So Vyasadeva, he composed Puranas, the names are there, and the different deities are extolled in them. In the mode of goodness, Vishnu is the supreme deity of the Puranas. Even though Vyasadeva composed these Puranas, 17 of them till goodness, he was very unsatisfied. And Narada, he told him that he has not described the beautiful pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the importance of devotional service to Him. So Vyasadeva came to the conclusion of writing Srimad Bhagavatam. 4 verses were given to him by Narada, which he heard from Brahma, and from those 4 verses, the whole Srimad Bhagavad Puran was expanded as a natural commentary to Vedanta Sutra, establishing cause and effect very clearly. In the subject matter of relationship between matter, spirit and controller, and how to re-establish the relationship, and what is the goal of that in that respect. So, that is Srimad Bhagavad Puran in pure goodness. Pure goodness means permanent goodness. The other goodness, ignorance, passion and goodness, they keep changing. And permanent goodness is known as pure goodness, which means transcendental. That is Srimad Bhagavatam. These are one section of books known as Purana. And now, there are 2 other sections that we may have to study. That's known as Itihasa and Kavya. It's there in the same sheet in your paper. Iti means thus or here, and Hasa means story or subject matter. So Itihasa means story, ethics. Now Itihasas are describing the story of either one great personality in the history, or one dynasty. This is known as Itihasa. And the story is originally taken, the history is taken from the Puranas. The Puranas have the whole world history. So from there they take one dynasty or one particular great personality, and in a very dramatic way they describe every aspect of his life. So Itihasas are 2, Ramayana and Mahabharata. Ramayana is describing Raghu Vamsa, the dynasty of Raghu, especially in connection with Lord Ramachandra, one of the kings in that dynasty. And Mahabharata is describing the story of Kuru Vamsa. Kuru dynasty, that is Mahabharata, especially in the life of Pandavas, the 5 Pandavas who come in Kuru dynasty. That is Mahabharata. So the Itihasa and Purana, they are both known as the 5th Veda, Pancham Veda. Pancham means 5th. Don't write on the tablet. So, Panchama Veda means the fifth Veda. So in the Puranas, all the essence of the Veda is given in the form of history. And Itihasa is also history, but Purana will be in a very wide manner describing 5 different subject matters. That is creation, recreation, because every day of Brahma there is again creation. So creation, recreation, Vamsanucharita, the story of the dynasties. There are 2 dynasties known as Sun Dynasty and Moon Dynasty. And then the geographical areas of the world. That means the land, water, different planets, their orbits. That's there. And then Prajapati, that means evolution. The subject matter of the species of life, how they came about. How higher beings, they give birth to lower beings and they populate the whole planet. This is known as Prajapati. Praja means population. Pati means Lord. Prajapati. So Sarga, Visarga, creation, recreation, Prajapati, the progenitor, Vamsanucharita, which is the dynasty, and then Dvipas, means the geography. This 5 subject matter is there in the Purana. And Itihasa means they just take Vamsanucharita from there. Means a dynasty. They may explain a family or a person. So Ramayana is concentrating on Ramachandra, who is in Raghuvamsa, in Sun Dynasty. And the Mahabharata is concentrating on the life of Pandavas, who are coming in Kuru Vamsa, ultimately in Moon Dynasty. Moon and Sun Dynasty combined. That is Kuru Vamsa. Though sometime one dynasty marries in the other dynasty, then they combine. So Yaduvamsa and Kuru Vamsa, they are connected together. So this is Itihasa. Then you have Kavya. Kavya means poetic drama. Drama in poetry. So Kavyas are like kind of emanations from the Itihasa. Either stories from Ramayana or stories from Mahabharata, they are taken and they are done in a very dramatic way. That is known as Kavya. Some examples are given here, like Raghuvamsa, Shakuntala by Kalidas. There are so many. Here we are just trying to study what are the categories of books. So Purana is a large journal, the history of the world, divided into 3 classifications, and the pure goodness Purana Srimad Bhagavatam is a natural commentary on the Vedanta Sutras. And Itihasa is a particular family or a particular hero taken from the Puranas, and that is Rama and Mahabharata. Then you have Kavyas, which are emanations of Itihasa in poetry. So that completes your Purana section. And now you should come to the Pancharatra section, which is on the left hand side of this chart. Now the Pancharatra are instructions by Narayana to different rishis like Brahma, Lakshmi, Mahesha, Lord Shiva. Originally Pancharatra has many meanings. Literally meaning is 5 nights. Brahma once last the Vedas when he woke up in the morning. Like every day when he gets up, some demons they come and see his remembrance of Vedas. So he asked the Lord how to conduct his activities, and the Lord asked him to worship him in the form of deity, and the deity worship instructions are given in Pancharatra. This Pancharatra is like a composition, a synthesis of Veda Upanishad and Purana together in one place. Because Vedic literature is large, that's why it is given. So everything is in there. Pancharatra, the first section of Pancharatra, there are 108 books, and in each book there are 5 sections. The first section deals with the whole setup of matter, spirit and the Supreme Lord. Starting from Vasudeva, original Lord, original form of the Lord, down to the deity which is kept in front for worship. All the incarnations, all the Manus, Manvantaras, the time periods, the creation, dynasties, the different geographical areas, everything is discussed in Pancharatra in the first section known as Dhyan. And then there are a section where they give you the instruction of how to do the daily worship of the Lord. Then they have a section called Yoga, where how to link oneself through purification of consciousness with the absolute truth which is in the form of deity in front of him for worship, as known as yoga. Charya section is the daily festivals of the Lord. I think there is one separate section on the installation of the deity and the temples and the different festivals to be conducted. In this way, Pancharatra is the deity worship book. Ultimately, the purpose of Veda is to establish oneself in full surrender by performing devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the purpose. So that purpose is attained gradually by all these different books, purifying a person's conditioned consciousness from step to step, level to level like that. And Pancharatra directly gives all the information and engages one in devotional service. That is Pancharatric books, 108 of them. Now we have to study a little bit about the efficacy of these books through the ages. Now, the Vedangas, Smritis and Agamas, which are all Vedic books, typically called Vedic, these require certain standards of student. The student has to be bona fide. And that bona fide comes by following the Vedic lifestyle known as Varna, Ashrama, Dharma. Varna means occupational classification, priest, ruler, businessman and worker. And Ashrama means student, celibate student, regulated family life man, and retired person interested in spiritual life, and mendicant who is engaged in welfare activities, following spiritual life. So this standard, as the ages go by, Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Kali Yuga, these standards go down little by little. Satya Yuga is gone, 25% is bad. And next Yuga, 50% is bad. Next Yuga, 75% is bad. Kali Yuga, 100% is bad. So, a bona fide candidate for Vedic study and Vedic practice is not to be seen in the age of Kali. So this section of Smritis, Vedangas and Agamas, they are null and void as you come to the age of Kali. They won't work because Varnashrama is finished. Tantra Shastra, of course, is already for those who are below the Vedic section, to bring them to the Vedic section. So that cannot apply now, because if you do that, you will only bring them up to the Vedic section and they are not qualified anyway. So this whole section becomes unfit. The books are great, systems are great, but candidates are unfit. Mandaha sumandamatayo, kalau Shudra sambhava. In the age of Kali, everyone is Shudra. Shudras are not allowed any side Vedic study. Shudra means there is no goal in life, so there is no meaning for him studying Vedas or practicing any Vedic life. So that is null and void now. Then as you come to Upanishads, already we find 5 different kinds of indigestion of the Upanishads and 5 incomplete philosophies, which is explained in Vedanta Sutra. But then again, Vedanta Sutra, the language, it is Sutra first of all, it needs commentary. And as soon as the commentaries are written, then direct study of the Vedanta Sutra in connection with the Upanishads is no more valuable. Then you have all the commentaries. Now the natural commentary on Vedanta Sutra is Srimad Bhagavatam. And these commentaries, theistic commentaries are all based on Srimad Bhagavatam. Principles of Srimad Bhagavatam. Namely, Sambandha, Adhideya and Prayojan. Relationship between matter, soul and God. And the revival of relationship by the process of devotional service. And keeping the ultimate goal as developing love of God. So this is actually a triangle here. Srimad Bhagavatam is natural commentary. The Brahma Sutras, they conclude everything that is necessary from the Vedas, Upanishads, everything is in the Vedanta Sutra. And Vedanta Sutra are commented by these commentaries. And these commentaries are based on Srimad Bhagavatam. So, Srimad Bhagavatam actually gives you the conclusion of the whole set of books in the middle. And now for the practice, because the Vedas we see in the Kalpa, Srauta Sutras, Vijay Sutras, Dharma Sutras, Shuddha Sutras, they give you definition of how to lead community life, family life, occupational duty, how to construct, and then in the Vedas you find body maintenance, body destruction, world maintenance, and the philosophy in the Upanishads. So the daily practice of one's life, code of conduct should be there. And all that code of conduct is given in the Pancharatra. So in the age of Kali, the very effective scripture for conducting life is Pancharatra. In the Vedas, in the Vedic books and Agamas, the bonus fidance of a candidate is according to his birth and training. Now the birth is according to the training anyway. You don't take birth as a king of England simply by some chance. Then why everybody else is not king of England? So this shows that he has some training before. That's how he becomes king of England. Royal family. Aristocratic. Suchinam Srimatam Yehe. Yoga Brashto Vijayate. So, training gives birth to actions, and actions give reaction, and reaction gives another next life. So in the Vedic system, and everybody was high class, so this birth has some meaning. That he is born a Brahmin, so he will be trained as a Brahmin, and if he makes it, he will be considered as a Brahmin. If he doesn't, he is rejected even in the Vedic time. So Pancharatra is different. Pancharatra system is, no matter how anybody has taken birth in any family, what is his previous training, what is his background, by accepting a spiritual master in the disciplic succession, he is initiated into the subject matter of Pancharatra by training program, and instantly he is purified by the process of training, and he becomes qualified to perform every activity according to the Vedic scripture. This is Pancharatra. So, in the four sampradayas, in each sampradaya, they write their books of code of conduct based on Pancharatra. That's mentioned there in your Nectar of Devotion, that sheet which carries this information in your booklet. You see, Nitya, Nainitika by Sampradaya. Nitya means daily, Nainitika means according to regulations, special activities. Daily activities and special activities. So in Sampradayas, they base their writing on Pancharatra, based on Pancharatric books, and they give Nitya and Nainitika books. By this, in each Sampradaya, they conduct worship of the deity. In all the four Sampradayas, the deity worship is there, and they accept Pancharatra. And Pancharatra is not within Vedas. Even Shankaracharya in his commentary to Vedanta Sutra, he mentions that Pancharatra is non-Vedic. Because it is not within the section of Veda, it doesn't require the Vedic standard. It's just by initiation, it gives training to people. That is Pancharatrika Vidhi. In Hare Krishna movement, we are initiated according to Pancharatric system, especially the Narada Pancharatra. There are 108 Pancharatras. Narada Pancharatra is instructions given by Lord Shiva to Narada. And Lord Shiva receives instructions from Sankarsana Narayana. So that is our Narada Pancharatra. Like this, each Sampradaya is specifically based on one Pancharatra and may take reference from all other Pancharatras and they make their Nitya Naimitika books. So here you find Lord Chaitanya. Now Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his devotee incarnation. He just appeared 507 years ago. He instructed the Goswamis, especially Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami. He taught Sanatana Goswami the whole description of Pancharatra scriptures, all the sections. And the deity worship, the daily Nitya and Naimitika section, in regard to deity worship, he discussed with Rupa Goswami. And also the process of devotional service, the Bhakti Lata Bead, the devotional creeper, classifying the living beings from moving and non-moving all the way up to the devotees and their activities. That's all there in Rupa Goswami's instruction. Chaitanya gave to Rupa Goswami. And he told them to write books on that. To write Smritis by hearing and remembering and writing a book. That's category of Smriti. So they were asked to write books. And Gopal Bhatta Goswami, he is a very Pancharatra, is a great Pancharatric expert. He comes in the family of three Vaishnavas, and he was asked by Chaitanya to go to Vrindavan and help Rupa and Sanatana. He is one of our six Goswamis. So there is a book known as Harivatri Vilas, which was composed by Sanatana Goswami, and the different editings were done by Gopal Bhatta Goswami, information studied by Gopal Bhatta Goswami. So it's a compiled work, combination work. You have Haribhakti Vilas as a Nitya Naimitika book of our line, Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. And there is Satriya Sara Deepika, the other book. This mentions about the family, just like we see in the Kalpa. You have Krauta Sutras which explain communal sacrifices, Vijaya Sutras explaining the family sacrifices. The same way here, Haribhakti Vilas is temple worship and communal activities, and Satriya Sara Deepika is the samskars from birth till death. What are the different purificatory ceremonies to be done? That is Satriya Sara Deepika. And now, Rupa Goswami, taking the instructions of Chaitanya, he compiled his book, Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which carries the essence of all this. So, this Nectar of Devotion is the code of conduct for the devotee. And that is our Pancharatra. There we find all our Pancharatric information, what to do. And there, Chaitanya instructed 64 different behaviors to Sanatana Goswami and 64 different kinds of offerings you do to the deity. They are technically known as Achara and Upachara. Achara means behavior. Upachara means different offerings. So these both are combinedly given in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Nectar of Devotion. 64 principles of devotional service. So Nectar of Devotion is a code of conduct for Hare Krishna devotees. And it is coming to us through the Goswamis as instructed by Chaitanya, who actually instructed the Sampradayas and all their Nitya Naimitika. So one cannot get anything better than Nectar of Devotion as far as Pancharatra is concerned. And Pancharatra is not small. If you simply put the printed text, which is not all in print here, if you put all the printed text, this room will be full. Padma Pancharatra is very big. Padma Pancharatra is almost as big as Padma Puran. So very big book. And they need commentaries again. Prayer is also there. How to apply them. It will say, conduct this puja. Now how do you conduct this puja? Where to conduct this puja? You have to refer other books. So in this way, it is not very easy. Whereas you have Nectar of Devotion, where everything is given in a precise, conclusive form, and hundreds of quotes from the Puranas and the various to support the conclusions is also there in Nectar of Devotion. So that is our code of conduct book. Now let's come back to here, to the next column. If you go up, you have the Vedas, the Vedangas, the Agamas, the Upanishads, and the Darshans which end up in Vedanta Sutra, conclusion of Upanishads. Now 5,000 years ago, Lord Sri Krishna, on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, in a conversation with Arjuna, answering his question on absolute truth, he gave the essence of all the Smritis and the Upanishads. The Smritis, Vedanga Smritis, they are instructing us how to conduct our life, what to do with our life. And the Agamas are describing different destinations by worshipping different demigods. And the Upanishads are describing the Vedanta. So there are three paths of education in the Vedas: Karma Kanda, Jnana Kanda, and Upasana Kanda. Karma Kanda is the methodology described in the 5 Vedangas and concluded in the Kalpa Sutras, namely the sacrifices, how to perform different sacrifices for the purpose of attaining different self-gratificatory purposes, different self-gratification aims. This is known as Karma Kanda. Then you have in the Agamas different controllers of worship with the idea of attaining their destination for having different levels of sense enjoyment again. That is known as Upasana Kanda. Then you have Upanishads, where the absolute truth is philosophically described, so that one can become free from material limitation and become one with the absolute truth. Of course, the purpose of Upanishad is not, but this purpose is also given in the Upanishad. Those who want this, they take that from the Upanishad. Those who want to be same, they take a different conclusion. So that is this is known as the Jnana Kanda. So that Karma Kanda there, Vedangas, this is Upasana Kanda, Agamas, and this is Jnana Kanda, Upanishad. Of course, they are not like chapter like that in the Vedas. It's all interwoven. Wherever it speaks about attaining some self-gratificatory result, it is Karma Kanda. Wherever it speaks about worshipping some deity, Indraya Swaha, Varunaya Swaha, that is Upasana Kanda. And when you come to the philosophical discussion, Nirguna, Nirankara, Nirvishesha, etc., that is the Nyaya Kanda. So you have 3 kandas, 3 paths specified in the Vedas. Now all that is concluded in Vedanta Sutra. Upanishads deal with that. So Sri Krishna spoke the essence of Upanishad. Sarva Upanishado Gavo, Sarvopanishado Gavo, Dokta Gopala Nandana. Gopala Nandan, the cowherd boy Krishna, he milks the cow of the Upanishad, and that is Bhagavad Gita. And the explanation of Bhagavad Gita as explained by Sri Chaitanya